game is faster up here. Welcome back to another episode of JV Matters, where we talk nothing but football up here. I'm your host, Coach Lowry. I'm going to interject a small advertisement here. This weekend on the 4th of July, I will be having a 250-year American special you won't want to miss. So, so make sure you tune in to JV Matters on the 4th. So let's get started with today's topic, however, on continuing to have JV practice with varsity. So, one of the first things JV players notice when they step onto a varsity practice field is this: everything is faster. Yes, it is. The tempo is faster. The decisions are faster. The communication is faster. The expectations are higher. At first, it can be or feel overwhelming. You may feel like you don't belong here, or you're always one step behind, one play late, one read too slow, 1 second too hesitant. But that's okay. Every varsity player was once standing exactly where you are. You are just being evaluated on how you respond and act at this point in time. Remember, watching JV players during the first varsity practice, someone looked some looked confident during warm-ups and some didn't. But once the drill started, reality sets in. The speed of the game has changed. Suddenly they realized they couldn't rely on talent alone. They had to think much faster. They had to react faster. They had to communicate better. They had to talk. They had to communicate. I'm finally getting my players to communicate. First couple of months, it was like zilch, like there's tape on their mouth, but they're communicating now. They were in a totally different world, but they got better as time went along. That's one of the greatest benefits of practicing with varsity. You see how they practice. You you can emulate them. You become them. It forces you to speed up, not just physically but mentally. Football isn't just a game of strength. It's a game of processing information. The faster you recognize what's happening, the faster you can react. That's what separates experienced players from inexperienced ones. They were able to put into what they learned into real situations. However, now, don't get me wrong, we were able to practice some of our plays or some of what we normally would use in a game. But however, some days we played the scout team as well. The team the varsity would play or face on the upcoming Fridays. So a lot of times, sometimes we played their offense, the scout team offense or the scout team defense. But one mistake I see young players make is getting discouraged because they struggle during those first few practices. They think, oh, maybe I'm not ready, or maybe I don't belong here. I tell them something as a coach. Struggling doesn't mean you don't belong. It means you're growing. If everything feels easy, you're probably not challenging yourself enough. That's why I'm never afraid to play anybody on the field. I tell my players that. Growth is uncomfortable. Improvement is uncomfortable. That's true in football, and it's true in life. I tell my team every day they belong on every football field that's out there. Every football field in America, I tell my team, you belong. You belong on this field. Don't let anybody else tell you different. Win or lose, you belong on that field. And they now are starting to believe it. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their reactions on how they practice. They believe it now. The players who improve the fastest aren't always the most talented ones. They're the ones who refuse to let frustration beat them. Instead of hanging their heads after a bad rep, they ask, Coach, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? They're asking to improve. I've noticed my players now after practice come up to coaches and say, Coach, what do I need to do? Or they're asking, well, what about this play? They're starting to ask questions. JV coaches are learning as well because we have to really learn how to coach on the fly when we're up there at the freshman level or the varsity level. We have to keep an eye, keep up with the varsity, but yet still be able to coach our players. That's what players who so that's a player who's growing. They need to know what's happening. They're able to ask those questions as they're going. So that's how you know a player is growing because they're asking questions. How can I fix something? Coach, I see that player doing this. Yes, this is what we need to do. So they're asking how can they improve. That's a player coaches love. Here's something else I want every JV player to understand. When a varsity player beats you in practice, don't take it personally. Study it and ask yourself, what technique did he use? How did he recognize that play so quickly? What can I learn from that rep? Every mistake is a lesson you're willing to learn from it. You have to be willing to learn from your mistakes. If you aren't, then you're going to struggle your entire football career, whether it's in high school or at the second level. You have to be willing to learn from your mistakes. Remember this. Remember what I said yesterday's video. The practice field is like a hands-on classroom. When you step on that practice field, you are in a classroom. You are learning. You are learning what I need to do, what you need to do. You need to take full advantage of it. I noticed a lot of this year versus previous years that most of my players, like I said, are starting to ask those questions. That's growth. As coaches, we don't expect JV players to perform like seniors on day one. We expect effort. We expect toughness, and we expect willingness to learn. Those qualities tell us far more about your future than one bad practice ever will. We all have bad practices. We all have bad days. We all wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I've watched players struggle their first week with varsity. It's going to happen. That's something that always happens. The game slowed down. They became more confident. Their footwork improved. Their communications improved. Their confidence grew. Not because varsity got easier, but because they adapted. That's one of the greatest lessons football teaches. You don't become comfortable by avoiding challenges. You become comfortable by facing them over and over again. I tell my players that all the time. Face your challenges, hit them head on. Eventually, once you felt impossible becomes normal. You tell your players, embrace the challenge every day. Embrace it. Don't shy away from it. Hit it head on. The same principle applies in life. The first day at a new job, the first day of college, the first time leading a team, everything feels fast. Everything feels overwhelming until one day it doesn't because you've grown. You've grown into that position. So if you're a JV player practicing with varsity and you're feeling overwhelmed, don't quit. Don't doubt yourself. Keep showing up. Keep asking yourself and quiet yourself, am I doing the right thing? Keep asking questions. Keep learning. Remember, the practice field is a classroom. One day, you'll be the varsity player setting the pace for someone else to learn. So in closing, first varsity practice isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to stretch you. Don't measure yourself by how you perform on day one. Measure yourself by how much you've improved by day 30. Because the players who embrace the challenge today become the leaders everyone looks up to tomorrow. Keep showing up, keep learning, keep growing. That's how JV players become varsity leaders. Thanks for tuning in. If you're learning something, please share with your family and friends. Hit the like button and the bell so you don't miss any of the episodes. And I will see you tomorrow on JV Matters. You all have an outstanding day.